Hello, this is John with Coach.Win. Each week, the coaches at Coach.Win get together and share best practices. We share articles we've written, articles we've read, and other sources of information that we think are valuable. We're going to be creating those into a podcast. Because we believe so much in AI, we're going to let the podcast be created by us uploading all those articles and have it automatically recorded. So while the voices you're about to hear are AI, the content behind it is all generated by the coaches at Coach.Win. Enjoy the podcast.
Ever feel like you're drowning in to-dos, like you're constantly buried while your team, the ones you hired to help, are just kind of, chilling?
Yeah, I've been there. It's like, wait, I hired them to lighten the load? How'd I end up working weekends?
Exactly. And it turns out this isn't new. Back in 1974, Harvard Business Review published this article, Management Time, Who's Got the Monkey? And it's been a hit ever since because it gets right to the core of why this happens.
And what's really interesting is it's not just about being busy, right? Everyone's busy.
Yeah.
It's about the kinds of time we end up managing. Like, there's the stuff your boss dumps on you, sure. Then there's the stuff the system throws your way, like reports and approvals.
But then there's that self-imposed time, that precious time we're supposed to have to do our actual work, the strategic stuff.
And that's exactly what gets eaten alive, right? By everyone else's urgent but not actually important tasks. And suddenly you're not leading, you're just reacting.
And that is where this whole monkey thing comes in. So picture this. Every one of those little tasks, those can you just look into this requests, those are like monkeys.
Oh, I love this analogy. They're cute at first, those monkeys, harmless little things, until bam, you agree to handle it later. Now that monkey's jumped on your back.
Exactly. And before you know it, you're weighed down by this whole troop of monkeys. You try to delegate, but it's like that classic trap. Send me a memo on that.
Oh, the worst. As if writing it down magically makes it your problem, not just something to be aware of.
Totally. And so we end up juggling, calling those monkeys priorities to make ourselves feel better. But the reality is we're not leading anymore. We're just putting out fires.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, our teams
aren't getting the attention they need, the real guidance. Because we're so bogged down in these monkeys, we can't even hear their actual concerns. It's a recipe for a disaster on both sides.
And it gets worse. The article paints this picture, almost comical, of a manager finally escaping to the office on a Saturday, hoping to finally get some real work done.
Oh no, let me guess.
Looks out the window. And what does he see? His entire team out on the golf course. It's like, hold on, who's really working for whom here?
Ouch. That's got a sting. Talk about a wake-up call. It really highlights how this monkey business can backfire on everyone involved.
So that image of the team on the golf course while the manager is stuck in the office, yeah, that's not exactly motivating, is it? But the good news is this Who's Got the Monkey article, it doesn't just point out the problem, it actually gives us a way forward, right?
Right, and one of the key concepts is this idea of completed staff work.
Completed staff work. Okay, so tell me more about that.
Basically, it boils down to this. It's not enough to just delegate a task, just throw it over the fence and hope for the best. You need to make sure your team understands what done actually looks like.
So it's about setting clear expectations from the start so they're not coming back to you every 5 seconds for guidance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not just clear expectations, but also giving them the tools and information they need to actually get the job done independently. It's about empowering them to truly own their work.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we empower our teams to achieve that completed staff work level?
Well, the article lays out these 5 degrees of initiative, which I think is brilliant.
5 degrees of initiative.
Yeah, think of it like levels of autonomy you can give your team.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
So at the very bottom, you have wait until told. And let's be honest, that's basically micromanagement city. It stifles creativity. It prevents growth.
No one's learning. No one's taking initiative.
Exactly. But as you move up those degrees, you're gradually handing over more decision-making power. You're saying, hey, I trust you to figure this out, and here's the framework and support you need to do it.
It's like that difference between being told what to do versus being asked how we should achieve this.
Exactly. And that's where another article you chose comes in, the one about cascading scorecards. Imagine you're going on a road trip, right?
Okay, I like where this is going.
Your company's big goal, that's the final destination. But how do you get there? The scorecard is your roadmap. It breaks that big goal down into smaller milestones, departmental goals, even individual responsibilities. So everyone knows their role and how their daily actions are moving that needle towards the final destination.
Instead of, hey team, we got to get to California, it's more like, here's the map, here are the key stops along the way, and here's why each one matters.
Exactly. And not only that, but with that shared understanding, they're also empowered to course correct along the way. Like, say someone notices you're low on fuel in that wait until told environment.
They might not even say anything.
Exactly. Or they'd be afraid to speak up. But with a scorecard, with ownership, they can confidently say, hey, I think we need to factor in a gas stop.
That makes so much sense. It's like you're giving them the tools and the permission to think critically and contribute their observations, not just blindly follow orders.
Absolutely. But even with the best roadmap, the best intentions, you still need someone to guide the journey, right? And that's where our third article comes in, one-on-one coaching.
Because we can't just hand them the map and peace out. We still need to be involved, but in a different way.
Precisely. Think of the scorecard as your team's playbook. Your one-on-one meetings, those are your coaching sessions. This isn't just about did you do this task. This is about providing feedback, celebrating wins, removing roadblocks.
It's about helping each individual team member grow and develop so they can become even better at their roles.
Exactly. And this is where that trust we were talking about becomes so important. Because if you're constantly looking over their shoulders, second-guessing every decision...
They'll never truly feel empowered to own the work, will they?
Exactly. And one of the articles you picked, it actually touches on this really interesting point from Stephen Covey about developing a mentality of abundance.
Mentality of abundance. Okay, tell me more about that.
So it's that belief that someone else's success isn't taking away from your own. In fact, it can actually enhance it. It's about embracing the idea that when your team wins, you win.
So how do we actually shift our mindset to that place of abundance? How do we go from being that monkey-burdened manager to that leader who empowers their team to excel? So we've been talking about this idea of stepping back, letting go of some control, right? But I imagine for a lot of managers, that's way easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. There's a reason this stuff is hard. And one of the articles you picked, The Case of the Leadership Team, it actually dives right into that struggle. They talk about these 3 common reactions managers have when it's time to, relinquish some control.
But let me guess, none of them are great.
Well, not exactly helpful. Let's put it that way. They call them defend, deflect, attack.
Oh boy, yeah, I can see that. So basically, fight, flight, or freeze, but for managers.
Right. But the root cause is always fear. Fear of mistakes, fear of looking bad, fear that if we're not the ones controlling every little thing, it's all going to fall apart.
So how do we get past that fear? How do we build a culture where taking ownership, and yeah, maybe even messing up sometimes, is seen as part of the process, not a fireable offense?
It starts with us. With self-awareness, like catching ourselves when those defensive reactions kick in, that urge to blame someone else, to make excuses, to just shut down any feedback. Recognizing that's step 1.
Because once you see it, you can start to change it.
Right, exactly. We can reframe the whole situation. Instead of, oh no, a mistake, someone's got to pay, it's more like, okay, what happened? What can we learn? How can we grow from this, both individually and as a team?
It becomes a learning opportunity, not a blame game.
Precisely. And this is where those one-on-one meetings we talked about, those become crucial. That's your chance as a manager to shift from critic to coach, from finger pointing to brainstorming.
And one of the articles you pulled, 5 signs your one-on-ones aren't working. It has some really great tips for making those meetings actually, work.
Well, that's a good one. The biggest takeaway for me is about creating that space for really genuine, open communication. And sometimes that means literally putting away the devices, phones down, notifications off, and give the person your full attention.
It sounds so simple, but I think we're all guilty of letting distractions creep in.
Oh, for sure. But it's not just about being physically present, right? It's about actively listening, like really hearing what the other person is saying, asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what you've heard.
So they feel heard, seen, valued.
Exactly. And when people feel that way, that's when they can really shine. That's how you build that culture of trust, of collaboration, where everyone feels comfortable owning their part and bringing their A game.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a little something for our listeners to chew on. If your work life, all of it, was a team sport, what would your scoreboard look like? What are those 2-3 metrics that really determine success for you and your team? And just as important, what kind of coach are you? Are you the micromanager, calling every play? Or are you the one who empowers your team to do their absolute best? Something to think about as you build your own game plan for success.